think the honorable thing for our species to do is deny our programming. Stop reproducing. Walk hand in hand into extinction. One last midnight, brothers and sisters opting out of a raw deal.
Do not trust any friends or family members. I repeat, do not trust friends.
Great success.
Am
I coming through okay?
Yeah, you're coming through fine. What I mean, it just
All right.
becomes a little like the volume goes up ever so slightly.
Okay.
I don't know why. It's
like you're tripping balls and like your senses just sharpen that little bit.
I think so, yeah. Whoa, these colors are much brighter. I must be recording my own voice.
We alter our state of consciousness.
Yeah, to a higher state of consciousness.
Yeah, of course.
For our audience.
Absolutely.
The big news of the day, this is going to date today, but today's the day that racist grandpa became a fucking criminal, like officially.
Yeah, that's a lot of 34 counts. That's a lot of counts.
It's just like, I always heard that they got those like old mobsters like Lucky Luciano on like tax evasion and shit like that.
Yeah.
And it's the same fucking thing. Like, can't we get this guy on a real crime, please? Paid up hush money for a sex worker. That's not really like, I don't know. It feels unfair because like the sort of criminality that the racist grandpa crew gets up to, it's like, God, I don't even know what it is, but it's got to be bad.
Yeah, but you know what? That election was so close that I can kind of see, like, if that scandal broke before he fucking steamrolled his way into just cult status, maybe some of the religious support for him, maybe it would have dwindled a bit. I don't know. I could see it being impactful for that election.
Yeah, I wonder, like, knowing what they know now, would they have made the same decision?
And sadly, I feel like the answer is yes.
Yeah. Oh, you think so? You think they would have did the hush money? I don't know. Like, who knows? I don't know.
Oh, I see. What try if they would have like just not done that and just let it ride? Yeah.
Yeah. Like knowing the wild success they had, just letting their clients or whatever the fuck, like their candidate just run wild is apparently exactly what exactly half of what America wants.
Yeah, if they knew that just like everyone was clamoring for a cesspit that they just could roll around in and just luxuriate in, then I think they would have just let it slide.
Yeah, I think they underestimated the extent to which like reality has transformed into the internet early on, like because that was obviously the success, right? Not the only reason for racist grandpa's success, of course, but certainly part of it. Anyway, he's a criminal now, a criminal and a rapist. So congratulations, America. You're still potential next president of the United States.
I still feel like it's only going to increase his odds somehow. Like, I feel like this is going to light a fire amongst someone.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, because this is politically okay. Sorry, I'm not saying this, but this is how they view it, which is like it's politically motivated. This is just like Putin's Russia. It's lawfare against these guys can't win in the polls, and so the deep state goes after them, et cetera, et cetera. It ties completely into that narrative. Like, the more guilty he is, the more innocent he is, which is all the more fucking like literally Orwellian. But it's not like the state makes it happen. So it's not like Orwell, but it's reminiscent.
It's like the state has transcended itself, and just like fascism itself is.
Oh, I see. Just out there floating and like.
Yeah, just beaming into everyone's minds.
Yeah, my pretties. Yeah, all right. I'll buy that. The ghost of fascism, or the high spirit of fascism. Why we're talking like this, Chris? Because we're in a higher plane of consciousness, and we can
That's right.
We can see what's going on. I fucking see it. You see it. I'm sure our audience sees it too.
They see it.
But sadly, though, I don't think our comic today is going to help our audience truly, like get there. I mean, maybe they got some intimations of it, but I think that's going to have to wait so we can talk about Dororo, the Extinction Agenda with James and Chris. It's been a long time since we we did a solo thing.
It's been a long time since we did like a like an epic manga series too.
Yeah. And this qualifies. I'm just gonna spoiler now that like I'm super disappointed by the ending. It
Yeah.
like it just feels like a tire, like a big firm tire that suddenly just turned all flaccid and just started going dum dum dum. And I was like, okay, all right. So I guess that's how did you run out of money,
Did you
Tezuka?
find no? Do you know what happened? It
No, I
was
don't. I don't.
it was canceled apparently.
Oh,
And
I did know
so
that. I wasn't sure
okay,
if it was more than that though.
I don't think so.
Okay, all right. Because like it was in a particular magazine. Okay, so this is Osamu Tezuka, Dororo. It was collected from 1967 to 1968 in something Shukan Shonen Sunday magazine. And then for whatever reason in 1969 it shifted over to Bokeno magazine. Don't know, this is just Wikipedia is telling me this, but something is clearly happening there. Like the magazine's shifting them out. Don't know why. This is about the same time that Tezuka's what's he launching at this time? Well, Phoenix is coming out at this time, and he's also started work on I don't think I wrote it down, but anyway, another big work. It's a very fertile time for Tezuka. His reaction to like Garo magazine and stuff. I think we talked about this when we talked about Phoenix, but so it's weird to me that this one just kind of gets lost, like and just like you said, it gets canceled, and so he just stops it. But there was way more story to tell. It was like it was almost yeah.
Yeah, there absolutely was. I mean, in fact, this was sort of just meant to be the prologue. Like it was really meant to follow Dororo eventually.
Oh my goodness gracious. So after okay, let's rewind. What's Chris? Give us the helicopter. Give us the elevator pitch on Dororo.
Oh, for fuck's sakes. Okay, fine. So we got ourselves Yakimaru is he's well, first let's go back. His father is a wannabe emperor, and
Yeah,
so
Lord Daiko.
so he makes a deal with demons. Is it 48 demons?
Yeah,
it is. Yeah. So he says, if you give me power, rule over all the land, I'll give you anything you want. They want his son, and they want like 48 body parts from him. Mm-hmm. So they get them. The son is born. The opening of this is metal as fuck. I love it. The like this like
with the lightning.
Yeah, the priest sees him and he murders the priest, kicks him over, and then the lightning strikes the sword that's in the priest's chest. Yeah. Amazing. Yeah, there's your sign. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the boy gets Mosesed down a river, and he's basically like a little like caterpillar, like with no body parts, that is found and rescued. We'll talk a little bit about that, I'm sure. Then he's his father, his adopted father, is a physician who builds him a body out of prosthetics so that he can survive and collect his body parts back. So as he kills demons, he's going to get them back.
Each demon, so it's kind of got like a video game thing going on. Obviously it's pre-video game, but it's it's a quest. He's on a quest to get his own body back for himself. And like we have to really emphasize like his entire body. He has no arms, he has no legs, he has no eyes, he doesn't have his own nose. I guess all of his internal organs are, and they're all, he's basically Astro Boy.
I was thinking that totally.
Yeah, like, but not like it's. I would really like, and this is impossible. Like I'd have to devote at least like 2 years to it, to just really getting into Tezuka. But his body of work is just like so impossibly large, just, and varied. But there's got to be like a Pinocchio theme in his work somewhere in there.
I think so too.
I can't imagine it's just this work, because it's in Phoenix for sure. I guess coincidentally it's in all the works that we've covered, but like I know from having read other works, that doesn't necessarily show up. So yeah, it shows up in Phoenix, shows up in Astro Boy, shows up in this. And it's weird. Like, this is a weird book. Holy fuck. Why did we end up reading this again? You're someone from work or something, right?
Yeah, it was recommended to me. I thought it sounded
Uh-huh.
pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was. It was
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. It's
So that
exactly
that was
as on the
basically it.
tin. Yeah.
Yeah, and it was Tezuka, right? Like, so I mean, I'm game to sample. Definitely especially the best of Tezuka.
Yeah, yeah. I think that,
Yeah.
like, this was, again, very disappointed by the ending, and I think it causes the work to fall and, very, very far in my estimation. But um until that moment, though, you're like, well, this is fucking great. And it just
Yeah.
reads interesting. Um I think that my real favorite part about it, though, is because I don't think it stacks up to something like Phoenix or um Echo or I don't know, like any of the work that he's putting out at this time. And, like, this isn't quite there, but what is there is a lot of stylized action, a lot of like kind of images that you don't normally like we haven't seen, at least from Tezuka, like his depiction of the evil devil gods, their various forms, the stories that surround them, which I assume are based on like folk tales to some extent, uh, like Japanese folk tales or.
I agree. I think the action in this is phenomenal. It's such a weird mix because it's that extremely cartoony style that Tezuka is known for, but it's also hard as fuck. Like the violence in it is very real. You have families being murdered. You have like children being murdered, pregnant women being trampled, like just that, like any sort of atrocity you could imagine. The demons and devils are pretty intense too. Like very early, you get
Mhm.
that guy being dissolved by that like there are a bunch of
A
thugs
swamp
sort of like,
monster.
yeah, torturing Dororo, and this is when they first meet, and they're like, oh, he's not a human, he's a rat in a child's body or whatever, and then this thing just like sneaks up on this guy and dissolves him, and he's like melting on the spot. Someone help me, my body's melt, and his like skull is like slow, it's like the blob or some shit.
Yeah, yeah. Um, but at the same time, so it is all that, which again is really fucking cool. Particularly the contrast with, as you said, the cartoony style. You're like, but some of it manages to be like very grotesque. Um, but there's also like this. He keeps doing this like fourth wall breaking, like all the time throughout it. There's a playfulness in the dialogue. There's a playfulness in the art. It's really this exercise in contrasts throughout, which I don't know, it produces a very weird effect. It can't quite Tezuka can't quite commit to horror. Can't at all commit to horror. That like he keeps it at bay, even as he's trying to depict it. He gets as close as he can, and I don't know if he's because he's trying to make it specifically for children. But if you're like, what a weird story for children. If so,
Yeah.
like,
Well, I
he
think
has to get it.
when we talked
Go
about
ahead.
Phoenix, I think we talked about there was this phase where he fell out of popularity and people were
Mhm.
looking for the more mature stories. They wanted more dark stories, and he started trying to give people that. And he did, I mean, to some extent. Like these are great and Phoenix is great and all that stuff. But
Mhm.
I think maybe he's figuring out the balance, or just sort of like maybe part of him is still rooted in that idea of writing for children, because I think you see that in the way that Dororo is depicted sometimes.
Yeah. It's weird because at this time he like even just shortly after this, or if not concurrent to this, in works like Book of Human Insects and Ayako and whatnot, like he's got no problem. Like he horror exists in that, but it's like it's usually the horror meted upon women within the family, or the dangers of the false woman or something like that. Like the doppelganger. Uh, but full on depictions, like graphic depictions of horror,
Mm,
that's
yeah.
where I think like that instinct of his kicks in, like his visual. And particularly, and also like I don't know. Another theory is that this is the only place where he can be as weird as he wants to be,
That's
because while he's
possible.
working, because while he's working on those other books, like there's a certain sort of discipline that's required of them. Um,
That's a great point. And there is sort of like there is the epic sweep there. He is trying to do a samurai story. I think something that is so fantastic about in the art here is just like how
mhm.
flowing it is and how dynamic it is. And the way that sword fighting is depicted in manga, like cartoony manga form. I've never I mean it's gonna be impossible to describe this, but it's exciting. Like it is dynamic. It feels like a sword battle is actually taking place. There are a couple of points where even like the sort of like the dual aspect of like pausing and like just sweating and waiting for your opponent to strike. Or there's one
Yeah,
part where he gets involved in that situation with that Ronin. They're like all night long they wait and they're gonna draw as soon as the fire dies out
yeah,
and eventually for whatever reason it's sort of a draw, like they can't because I forget what happens, but like it's
yeah,
very
yeah,
tense.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but those aspect to aspect shots, and I think this comes down to like again, will I do want to comment obviously about the samurai thing in a second. The I'm thinking at like page 502, just as an example, you've got this establishing shot at the beginning. You've got those like bamboo poles. You got the book in front of you? Do you know what I'm talking
I do,
about?
yeah. I'm just flipping
Okay.
it.
Uh, so you get like this cool shot, and it's almost as they're in darkness, except for this lit area, and then there's like it's those close-up shots to the weird like fish-eyed dude,
Oh, right.
and then you got the close, and then close in on the feet, look back, like it's very like only the good thing about manga, and I'll say this frequently, in that like obviously it was sort of struck upon by guys like Warren Ellis and in the 90s and early 2000s, this decompression that is only possible in a serialized narrative in which you get like like not just like 20 pages per month, but maybe per week. You there's real estate that you can actually use, and Tezuka is like very good at using it to establish pace. Like you can't really like praise this guy enough. Like it took me, I'm probably just gonna recreate whatever we've said in the past about Tezuka in the next sentence, but when I was younger, I was like, man, like much younger, like the first time Tezuka comes across your bow, you're like, I don't know, it's just kind of cartoony and whatever. But the older you get and the more you give it a try, like it's like with all things, you're like, he's actually a master. he's,
Yeah.
he's a real fucking wizard.
Yeah. I'm
Um,
looking too at this, and I want to challenge a little bit the idea that he can't or like fails at doing horror. You're right. It is always sort of like to
well, he
depict it
doesn't
in this sort of
fail at
cartoony
it.
style. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at that image of the spirit foxes when he kills that thing by throwing his nose, which is an explosive that his father gave him into
What
its
page are we
maw.
looking at here?
We're looking at page 403 and 404,
Okay.
and
Oh,
the resulting like the thing's head is blowing off, and it's like literally like spewing blood out of its neck until it bleeds out and just kind of falls over. Like that's awesome. That's like Sam Raimi shit.
oh yeah, and it's just like, whoa.
Yeah,
It's just like, yeah, that's so weird. And it
yeah.
goes on for like how many panels? One, two, three, four, and then finally five.
Wow.
Um, yeah,
Didn't they
that's
like
a
take a
funny thing to
scale?
pick out. That's a funny thing to pick out as like an instance of horror, though, because that just like it just looks funny. It just looks funny to me.
I think if you think about it, I think that's there's a translation. Like you have to just kind of what would that actually be like?
Yeah, yeah. So I'll use the spraying of blood though as a good transition back to talking about like what's going on. So what's going on in samurai movies at this time? So this movie, this comic, there's a couple reasons it takes place in the past in this. Like you had said, it was an attempt to respond to Gaikiga and the big one in Garo magazine at this time. Shit, did I write it down? Anyway, it's Kamui, or I honestly don't know how to pronounce it, but it's basically like this socially conscious ninja story. Not like a samurai story, but it's like it attempts to depict like something like a realistic ninja story. I'm trying to yeah, there's the dude. Sanpei Shirato. Anyway, so it's like there's like a martial arts in the past sort of social commentary type thing going on in the book. So he's kind of responding to that in this. And then I think also, like, I counted 29 samurai movies that came out from between 1960 and 1969, and that probably just scratches the surface. And this is like the prime area. And all that exploding blood, that doesn't start till 62. And that's a result. If we ever get to talk about this movie, Sanjiro, the Kurosawa movie, long story short, there's a final battle at the end, and the two guys are supposed to fight, and one of them gets cut down and one of them doesn't, but as he gets cut down, he's supposed to like bleed a little bit, but the pump malfunctioned and it started just spraying blood everywhere. It was just and they didn't flinch, and they filmed the scene, like without and after that everything changed. And it became like a major component of these samurai films. Not all of them, but definitely in the cheesier ones, to just have like spraying blood all over the place. And there's so much of that in this book, in Dororo. There's like obviously like very cool sword fights or whatever, but also a lot of the conventions. Yeah, which adds to the playfulness. They must have known.
That's incredible. Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Oh yeah, if you ever get to see the scene, like just look it up. Audience, just Sanjiro, 1962, final scene. Give yourself a treat. It's hilarious. Like I can't imagine what audiences would have thought of it. It's because it looks like it's awesome when it happens, but it's so inappropriate for the movie up until that point. There's nothing like that happens. There's not even the right tone for that. Anyway, yeah. What do you think of Dororo himself here? We've talked a lot about how did I pronounce that? Hakimaru?
Hakimaru, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Right. The dude with the prosthetics and whatnot, and there's still more to say about Hakimaru, but we should probably talk about
our title character.
It was weird that this was the title character. And now that you tell me that this was meant, like, I can't believe, sorry, I'm interrupting you, but I can't believe this was meant to be a prologue. It's 800 pages.
I know. It's
how long? Right? What was he going to do? Is this like his life's work that just got abandoned?
I mean, Phoenix is like so many volumes. I think he just thought on large scales. So yeah, but I don't know exactly what the story would have been. I mean, you'd think that it would resolve the treasure map and the demon plot and all that. But there's you do see. Oh, sorry. To answer the question, Dororo.
Yeah.
So Dororo is like sort of like feels himself as a master thief, bit of a Bart Simpson kind of energy. Good at throwing rocks and stuff like that, and like threatening to piss on the graves of emperors and stuff like that. And just sort of like a trouble. So like the whole hook to begin with is that Dororo starts following our swordsman around because he wants the sword. So he's going to steal the sword at some point. And then they just kind of like develop a bond through close contact, and always calls Yakimaru bro and all that, sort of like an annoying younger brother, but vulnerable too. And we find out through time that Dororo's parents were master thieves, or not, they were bandits, but they were bandits who were trying to strike against the samurai class and to raise money for the farmers who were being oppressed. So they're sort of like hero, like Robin Hood kind of peasants.
Which is like, again, getting back, sorry to interrupt, but this is again back to, especially post Kurosawa. This is what not vampire, samurai. That's funny. That funny conjunction there. The samurai movies at this time become codes, like about the, or coded discussions, coded stories about uh, the rich versus poor. And very often the samurai is depicted as like sort of a parasite or a vampire on the land, not not in supernatural sort of ways, but in definitely like injustice sort of ways. So yeah, so it's fitting.
Right. Yeah, I enjoyed all that element of it too. Like I like that like class comes into this and um that sense. I mean, I think one thing that this story does is look at the idea of power and like in general,
Hmm.
where power is sort of something that disrupts families, like just disrupts communities, and sort of like literally manifests demons,
Yeah,
versus the sort of idea all right, this is like academic nerd talk, but
sure.
I've never really been big on like structuralism in literary theory. It's basically like you're just trying to find elements of the text and like reduce the text to like themes or like divisions, binaries, things like that. But I have
Right.
to think that the just like this whole work works on a binary of wholeness and division, like from the body of Hakimaru to the idea of like families being torn asunder or communities being torn asunder and restored,
Yeah.
like social bonds, families. I could not help but think that this would respond really well to that. And I think,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, part of that is it just seems like that idea of power is central to all of that.
Yeah. I'm not gonna. This is just a passing comparison, but I'm thinking of. It's a very passing comparison, and like unworthy of Tezuka. But when James and I did Batman: The Long Halloween the other week, one of the things that kind of makes the medicine go down on that one is that it has like a thematic backbone. It has like, like order, chaos,
Hmm.
family unit broken up,
Yeah,
that kind of humming in the background of the story. Putting aside literary theory, put all that stuff away, like what makes a good reading experience, what keeps a book alive. Stuff like that keeps a book alive. And also gives you something to riff off of as like sort of like jazz. Uh,
exactly. Yeah, I think when you're thinking of new things to put your characters through, it kind of like, oh, I've done this before, but like I can skew it this way.
mhm. Yeah, and I think that like I don't like who knows what's going on in Tezuka's mind. Like he's a maniac. Like he's one of those intuitive creators. I feel in the sense that he doesn't have time to plan anything. Like I just find it so surprising that he ever planned anything in his life. He's too busy drawing because he's like it's again like I'm there's assistance. Fine, I know there's assistance. I don't know if there's assistance at this time, but like he's writing, he's drawing, I think he's not even inking because he goes straight to inks with his work, which is like I don't know that that's the case, but if so, like that's daring do on a weekly schedule.
It's insane. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, like I don't like I can't see this. I'm okay. So humor me, because I feel this kind of factor. It doesn't fully riff off what you were saying, but I think it's illustrative of something. So page 277, 78 or whatever. I guess it would be 78, 79. It's like a two-page spread. Um, and we got Dororo. He's got two swords in his mouth. Oh no, he doesn't have two swords in his mouth. So he doesn't have arms, but he has swords built into his arms that he's able
Yes.
to put sheaths on, which allow, like, he also can move his arms around. Like, there's a very magical quality to, like, whatever
Yeah.
prosthetics we're talking about. Like, we're not talking about the Tin Man. Like,
So it's explained that he can like flex his shoulder to move his fingers, but like these are finely constructed prosthetics, that's for sure.
Yeah, like liquid metal. So
you said 278 and 79?
Oh no, what one, oh pardon me. 178, 179. Pardon me. And you got in the background there like these guys playing drums, doom, doom, doom. And I have no fucking clue where those guys came from. Like they don't exist in the story. Like all of a sudden it becomes like a theater or an opera, and the bad guys there, and everything's crashing down, and like it's just like a classical, almost sort of painting, and he's like there's figures dancing in the background and women weeping and everybody's putting their hands up. No,
as like a stage all of a sudden.
Yeah. And this gets to what I was saying about like breaks down the fourth wall, like Dororo's like he's the greatest swordsman ever, and the guy's like whoa, and he's like no, leave the advertising to me. And they'll make reference to like dump trucks, like all sorts of modern things. They make reference to
his foster father says, like in science fiction terms, you'd be a mutant or a cyborg.
Yeah. And yeah, like in all of this, and this gets to the hodgepodge thing, and this is ultimately what I mean about Tezuka's inability to like in this work to embrace horrific imagery, because this very same thing that he's fighting in this suddenly like operatic space, which is just like completely left. Not operatic, I mean, like be like kabuki. Like this woman is this slug creature, like page 173, like she's like this melting shadow creature, there is all this like truly horrific imagery, and then it's defused as fast as possible. And like it's kind of a shame. Like I admire the virtuosity of this book and its playfulness, but at the same time it lacks I guess there's an irony in the theme that you identified. Like it lacks a unity of effect. It's disjointed everywhere, and like maybe had Dororo continued to the end, there would have been a unity of effect. Everything would have come together, and like people would have been crying. Totally possible. Tezuka's really good. He knows how to make emotional beats work. But yeah, it's just it's wild. Like I was really happy for the person who suggested this to you. Like I tell them thanks. I never would have read this otherwise, and like it's one of his crazier works. Very enjoyable for that reason.
Yeah, even in this episode, like you've got the sort of monster you described, and then the story is that like it grew from a tumor that was on this girl's knee, and then starts talking to her and eating until it sort of like separates from the body and kills her. Like it is wild, and I totally take what you mean about the sort of like almost free association or intuitive quality, because like I don't know if that's some sort of myth that he would be drawing on. I remember like it reminded me of Cat Eye Boy, where there was like those mutant tumor monsters. Like, is this just sort of an idea that's going around, or did that take influence from this strange story, or who knows, right? But it doesn't make linear sense, that's for sure.
No. And then more than that, if I'm remembering this, the Bandai lady, right? It's the one who she came into town. The story is that she comes into town and she's she makes this thief go around, or I don't know, something like that. She brings prosperity to the town, but the town never gets rich.
Oh, because there's that weird fucking Oni thing that's like, it just keeps like, it's got like a fucking potato head, and it's like,
you want it?
Do you want it? Do you want it? And it's just like trying to give people the treasure or whatever. But what a horrible life they have. Yeah, because they're like stuck in this village where like time after time it's like Sisyphus, you rebuild all the crops and like you prosper again, and this monster comes and tears it all down. And then you find a little money again.
Well, yeah, and then meanwhile, this creature is hoarding all of the money as part of like their demon, like, and it gets to, this is the class thing,
Yeah,
the and um the all of these demonic, these evil devil gods, they oppress the little guy, they oppress the weak, and I like that. We haven't really commented on this. We've kind of thought it was more fun, and it is funny as presented, like it's wild, but like the truly disabled person is the hero in this,
that's true.
is the agent of the oppressed,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. And all the demons
in
are
the
like
weirdest
all
way possible. Like,
yeah. It feels like the demons are all kind of antisocial forces, or like they draw on people's worst qualities and things like that. And I think maybe okay, so I'll I'll back up for a second.
sure.
I think part of the reason why this came into the forefront, and maybe part of the reason why my coworker had read that, is that in 2019 they remade this as as an anime series, and
Yes.
apparently they do some really great things with the adaptation, where it's sort of like they riff off of this and like keep the essential story, but they're sort of deepening and the emotional resonance of it, where um part of the relationship between Dororo and Hyakimari, is that the name? I always mess up. Anyway, it doesn't
Well,
matter.
is the
Or
H
swordsman.
silent? I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, part of the relationship is that the swordsman is not really even like, he's feeling his way through the world as someone who has never experienced sight or sound. So there's a vulnerability to him,
Hmm.
where as he regains his body parts, like he's literally learning how to see, how to hear, how to experience reality. How like fire is hot, like so don't step in the fire.
Yeah.
And he's very dependent on Dororo to coach him through becoming more human. I think that's I actually really want to see this because I think that's a great idea for an adaptation. Um, but there is something to this about that coming to self actualization, becoming more human, just kind of willing yourself to I guess like engage with the world, even though you've been dealt such a shitty hand. That is very
Mhm.
compelling.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, I'm, yes, but there is something cheap about the way that Tezuka is also cheap and typical of this book, this particular story, in that it kind of bypasses all of those potential emotional beats that you've outlined in that cartoon. Like, that sounds good. I was very curious after having read this, and in retrospect, I did have the time to check it out, but really didn't. I had meant to. There was also like like an animated television series that was happening like in '69. Like, there's a
Right.
Dororo cartoon from 1969. I'd love to see what that looks like. Um, and actually, now that we've said this out loud, like, I know cartoons aren't for kids necessarily nowadays, but like the fact that Dororo was a children's cartoon along with Princess Knight and Astro Boy, maybe answers all my questions. It has nothing to do with, like Tezuka's unwillingness to embrace horror. It has everything to do with, like, this is a children's book. This was
Yeah, trying to
Doctor
keep it
Who.
within
Yeah,
realm,
yeah,
within range of what kids can tolerate.
yeah, yeah. And then like those little Disney nods for the adults and that kind of thing.
That makes a
Anyway,
lot of sense. Yeah.
yeah. Um, that said, I'd like to see that. Oh wait, no, my point was that it's kind of cheap that uh, Hakimaru does not, like, when he gets his vision, it's like it's for a page that he's a little disoriented, like, or maybe 2 pages, like, oh my goodness, I've never seen the mountains before. But up until that point, he is the most of, like, he's like Daredevil on
Right.
steroids.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Very true. Yeah.
And so, like, the disability element really doesn't come through at all. If anything, it's a superpower, which again is why, like, I wouldn't want to push too hard on the fact that, oh, the disabled person is the most oppressed and actually is fighting, because, like, he's the disabled Superman, he's a cyborg.
It's true. Yeah. And he's learned to like talk by casting his thoughts or to read people's minds, and everything's sort of like ventriloquism sort of thing, because he has to. But yeah, exactly. It's like he's learned. Daredevil's a perfect example. That's the archetype. Yeah.
Yeah. And can we talk for a minute about when he's a baby?
Sure.
I don't know, man. Like he's like this little skull creature. Like this is grotesque.
Yeah.
Like so they find him. Like they won't show what Hakimaru looks like. For many pages. You said he gets Mosesed early on. They're like, oh, I did the baby, and they send him off in the thing, and then we get a flashback finally, like on page 62, and he's like this little skull creature just worming around. And he found his way to his food bowl on his belly and chowed down. The doctor wondered, how does he know where the food is? So he's developing all these like psychic senses. He has powers beyond our senses. And he looks very similar. Like he looks like a ghost. He's born a ghost. We even see some of the let's see if I can find my little note. Probably not going to be able to find it. Yeah, child explodes with Casper babies on page 553, and it looks like him, sort of,
553.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now they don't have the skull face, but they're reminiscent.
They are. Yeah. Yeah. I love this line where the doctor continued to raise the child. The child did not die, as always. Just so bleak, this existence, like day by day, it's just clinging to life, crawling to its food bowl.
Yeah, no, it's monstrous. I had no arms or legs, nor eyes nor ears, but holes in the face where the eyes, nose, and mouth should have been. Like one, I'd love to hear that in Japanese, but even in English, it's poetry. And yeah, it's weird. He keeps it like in this little litter box, and then it brings him out to smell. These are flowers. Anyway, so he has like we already said, he doesn't experience disability in this. And fine, it doesn't have to be that story. This is ultimately like a little boy or like a pretend boy, a Pinocchio, who becomes real.
It's very Pinocchio. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So that's fine. I can't fault it for doing what it never set out to do, but I just think it makes sense that the modern cartoon would pick that up and try to like flesh that out, because it calls for it. Like, what else are you going to do with Dororo?
Yeah. I think in the same way, I think part of the interest that came out of this recently too is the idea that there is a trans narrative, in a sense, that Dororo biologically female, but it's absolutely adamant that he's a boy. But I think that reading is a bit like, who knows how it would have progressed, because like Hakimaru just like keeps figuring out, I'd really love for you to be in a dress someday to experience that. Dororo's like, fuck you, man. I'm a boy.
I guess the answer to that is probably contained within the Princess Knight story, which I haven't read. I got a copy of Princess Knight. I'd like to tackle that someday, although I kind of don't, because I feel it's going to be a really lesser work. But just this idea of this girl who becomes a knight, this princess who becomes a knight, and it goes on adventures, and one gets the impression that at the end there's going to be like a gender normativity thing kind of enacted there.
Right. Yeah.
And probably the same with Dororo, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows? And because it's incomplete, it's you can take it as however you want to take it. Yeah.
And it's a real slow build. I mean, spoilers. Yeah. This doesn't get revealed until like page 750 or something like that, or I don't know. There's a hint for it earlier. I didn't know what to make of it, and I didn't make a note. I didn't write down when it was, but let's say it's around page 500, 600, something like that. Someone looks at Dororo and they're like, why weren't you raised as a girl? They ask him explicitly that, but like nothing. There's no reaction that comes from that, if I remember.
Mhm. Even sooner, well, a little hint
Mhm.
that Dororo won't ever take a bath, and you're just like, oh,
Right.
like what a
Yeah.
filthy fucking boy, you know? But
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, that's a good point. Absolutely. And you just think he's dirty, and because he's a smelly little monkey kid, right?
yeah,
Like, and you're
yeah.
just like, okay, that's kind of a
So
funny
urgent.
joke.
Yeah,
Um, and maybe this is a fault of the series as well, in that, um, well, it's not a fault of it, but it's kind of a fault of the mode of the book, in that like you don't take it in any other way than it is. When Dororo says like, "No, I don't want to. I don't do that." Like, he just seems like a little kid. Like, you don't ever get a sense that there's anything hiding behind that um, being pushed away in order to protect. Like, and I don't know how you would indicate that without being sort of exploitative, or not even exploited. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. It's just like, I don't know. It's inappropriate for this kind of story, which has no real interest in the interiority of characters,
that's
other
very
than,
true.
yeah. I gotta say though, if this isn't too hard to shift over, but it is tangential. Dororo's father, speaking of hard as fuck,
Oh yeah,
the hardest as fuck guy in this book.
yeah,
Uh,
that's amazing.
Amazing. Yeah. Like, so he's this bandit leader, and he's so good. He just beats the shit out of people. No problems. He's making money, and like he's got like sort of like this revolutionary mentality. He's always fucked the man. Hibukuro. Yeah, all my notes, it's just like there's an arrow. Fuck yeah. Um, Page 224, then 240, 243. So like, there's stuff before that, but basically, like, in order to beat him, they have to shoot a bunch of arrows into his knee, so they can finally arrest him. He manages to escape because Dororo's like a natural thief, and like when they finally catch him, they drive him through with a spear.
And the guy's a
And
fucking coward, like just like underneath the wheel of like of a cart, just like poking out, too afraid to
yeah,
face him.
yeah, stabs him right through the stomach from behind. And so, in order to kill this dude, he walks up with the spear sticking out of his own stomach, and he's like, "This is how you should use a spear." And he just like fucking drives his belly into the dude and flattens him, and like he's dead. And like, I can't remember the last time I saw something that hard.
Yeah,
It
it's so
was it
good.
was it was fucking crazy. But it's all like it's presented in this incredibly cartoony style. Like, it looks like Bugs Bunny, and you're like, "Well, this is so disjointed." Um,
Yeah.
but then
Well,
like
even
one panel later, you've got the burial, and you like straight like the prayers, burial, the walking away. It's all so efficient. Anyway, sorry, I cut you off.
no, that's okay. I was cutting you off. The way he's like fighting, like with that stick, and he's like
Yeah.
smashing people's faces and like deforming their faces, like with the imprint of the stick is like just cut into them. It's so good.
Yeah, and that like that use of the stick to I don't want to draw too hard a comparison, but the I was thinking of Bloody Spear on Mount Fuji, the Uchida samurai movie, which basically is, it's very critical of samurai throughout, and then in the final fight scene, it's the sort of the spear bearer of the samurai, so like the guy that follows him around to like show his fucking samurai wealth, like some kind of an underclass figure. He beats the shit out of the other like ruthless samurai, but he does it with a stick, and he's kind of like a big oafish fella. I just wonder whether or not like there's some sort of trope there, some sort of like,
Yeah, I would be surprised
uh,
at all.
yeah,
When was that movie?
60,
Okay.
63,
Oh,
62,
so
something
like
like that.
really, when was this?
Well, this is
60.
67, this is
Okay.
69.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. So
Master
maybe there's.
Spearman's 1960. That's got some of that stuff too. But then, Oh, maybe Blood on Mount Fuji is 59. I take it back. Either way, it's a thing. Either way, it's a thing in these movies. So I don't know. I don't want to read too much into it. Obviously, like he's
Yeah.
also just braining them with a stick.
That's how you do
You
it.
know? Yeah.
What was your favorite demon encounter? Because I don't think we can really, well, we can't go into all of them, but
Oh my goodness. I don't know if I'm prepared for that question. Let me think. Okay, well, I don't think it really counts as a demon. I got two answers. One was the guy with the blood sword, like
oh, the
the
possessed sword,
yeah,
Nile.
because that had that had the coolest samurai fighting.
That's
And it went
true.
on for a long time. It was very cool. Like great sword fights, just went on and on and on. It was then the story afterward was whatever. Um, I think oh, I'm giving you three answers. I think visually the swamp monster,
Mhm.
and then for the piece de resistance, I think it might have to be the moth lady because I think she stood out to me the most.
Moth Lady is pretty
Yeah,
rad. Oh yeah, and
yeah,
her eggs, and like, yeah, that was the weird fish-eyed guy who like had married this demon
yes,
and was
yeah, yeah,
totally blind, but like just sort of blinded himself to like what she was doing in the town and like laying her eggs and all that shit. That was
yeah.
pretty horrific.
And yourself.
And I was hoping you picked the one that I picked. The sharks were so fucking awesome.
You fucking dick.
That whole episode. No, you don't like the sharks?
Well, the shark, yeah, okay. Well, maybe it's because I read it a few weeks ago, but they don't like that was the weird. That's such a weird story. Like the twin
That
shark demons.
I want to talk about that one.
Yeah, yeah. Let's
Yeah,
go.
that's so that whole episode is my favorite. So this starts the sort of I feel like this is sort of like the inciting action for Dororo because it's like his old bandit crew shows up and like the leader is a guy who sold out his dad and they know about the map. So Dororo has this map on his back that's
Yeah,
meant to lead to this treasure, and they kidnap him, and they wanna go find where this is. They're gonna raid it. So normally I have no patience. Like I hate these sorts of themes of like the child who's lost in the wild, and I don't know why that rhymed. I didn't mean to. But anyway, they like that sort of like Tarzan sort of thing, boys
right.
adventure does nothing for me. This is so fucking insane, this one. Because there's this kid who was raised by sharks, or like they sort of like formed this bond after he was abandoned. Um, and like he's given his story. Like so first of all, he tricks these bandits. He's like, I'll carry
Yeah,
you across the water. I'm a ferryman. I can help you out. And so as they go onto the boats, it turns out that they're being carried by these two demon sharks who are giant. They make Jaws look like a pussy. But
yeah.
yeah, they and he's saying like just I watched my mom bleed from her neck, die, and shriveled up into a mummy. And then afterwards, he starts feeding the sharks these like if I found a dog, and then I found like neighboring goats, and like he's just constantly feeding them and like finding new things to trick and bring them across.
And I think this is kind of a departure from what we've seen up until this point. The villains have all been like establishment figures, power, and demonism and that kind of thing. But this is um this is almost like this is kind of like a serial killer story. Uh,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And it
yeah.
go ahead.
No, I don't think I had anything more to say to that just yet.
Okay.
Other than he is the most trustworthy looking oarsman I ever saw.
He does look pretty insane. Yeah.
He looks like this elf, and his hair is like standing, like practically standing on end. You're like, how do you do that? And why don't you have nipples? Why are you? Everybody else does.
Sacrifice him to the sharks.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's like it's twisted and nurturing all at once, this bond that he has with him. And
Hmm.
yeah, and I love this is sort of where Dororo is coming into his own, where like he's just kind of yelling at these bandits who are all terrified, like they're gonna die, and like, but Dororo's like, no, I have a plan. They get to the island, and I love like the way that this boy tricks him, like, oh, go over there. I'm like, you're thirsty, you're dying of thirst. Oh, check out that pool over there. And then they just find all those like body parts all over the place, because it's like where the sharks kind of come and kind of like beach onto land.
And then how do they defeat this thing? I guess Dororo like coordinates them so they like attack it at the same time.
Yeah, the first one. So Dororo, like,
they're on the
they need
boat.
to strike at just the right time. They're on the boat.
Yeah.
And so like when it breaches the water, he's gonna strike. But it's like the most dangerous. He's gotta risk diving into its mouth, basically.
Yeah, okay, yeah, because the shark like jumps up and like grabs two guys. Ah, help us, blah, and they go underwater, and everyone's like, haha. And then he leaves them out there, jumps on his other shark buddy, floats off. Ah, ha, 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 I'll see you later. And so yeah, Dororo like times it basically. Like there's going to be a moment when he comes up. He actually swims underwater to bring him up, and then orders them to attack. Like, yeah, he becomes like this. He becomes like a bandit leader, like a daring bandit leader, just like his dad.
Yeah, and then they're all like, he wins them over. You're a good kid, and like, he's like, shut up, it's too soon. There's another shark.
Yeah.
And then this kind of breaches into like this, and this is such a Tezuka thing too, where in the midst of like he can be so playful and then shift into this sort of serious, almost allegorical mode.
Right.
And so as they kind of like are dealing with this guy, and also dealing with these magistrates who have come to try to raid the treasure, and they say that, oh, we've seen bandits in the area, but they're really just kind of there to steal the gold for themselves. You get this sort of like this weird allegorical moment where the bandit leader and his underling are climbing up this cliff face, and they can't see too well, and there are these figures above, and the bandit leader keeps talking about the treasure, and the other guy's like, I don't want the treasure, my life is. And then at the top there are these weird Buddhist statues that are just shrouded in mist, and when he fires the arrow, it topples over on him and takes him out, right? So there's like this reminder of this like higher realm, like that, what's really important in life.
Yeah, but it's also it has all the moral force of like the Statue of Liberty falling on you. Like it's happening. Like I'm not denying that it's there. It's totally there, and it is the mind at work. But at the same time, like it lacks the gravity, no pun intended, of what that scene could have entailed. But again, like that's Tezuka's 10,000 ideas a minute mentality. Just like squeezing it all out at any given moment. Like there is a richness at any given time.
Yeah. Yeah, and then that bandit leader's converted, right? The statues all topple over on him, and Dororo saves him, and then suddenly he's a staunch ally to hurling rocks down to crush these attacking magistrates. Sacrifices himself for it. I like that his dying wish is just like, I just want to see the treasure. And then the treasure is just this note that says, yeah, I couldn't trust this idiot, so I hid the money somewhere else.
Yeah, I like that too. I like it as like a straight up MacGuffin, kind of our princess is in another castle kind of thing.
Absolutely.
The tying back into like the and it kind of puts me in mind of again, and I don't know if it's a flattering comparison or not, but it is a comparison. Like Noah Van Sciver's work, his Book of Mormon for instance, like his story of Joseph Smith and the origins of Mormonism, there's a lot of like I don't know, like he depicts Joseph Smith really shittily, let's say, and it's awkward, and he's to say the least. But then whenever like there's this discussion of or attempt to evoke the like God or the divine, Van Scaver's really good at like pulling back and giving like making the landscape feel big and infused with something. So like so too with Tezuka. You'll get these full page spreads of him, like all those dead bodies on the mountain. You find them every once in a while, and it's usually like, I don't know, a hut being rained on or something like that. But when he pulls out these large images, there's a lot of cross hatching and weird lines and textures, and none of it actually looks like rock at all. Like, I don't know what he's drawing, like these waves of shadow. Um, but it has a particular effect, like these pulling out and showing things like that. It grounds the page, it grounds the cartoonishness in has a sort of gravity, like it pulls everything down. Like, and I think he's actually, sorry, I'm going on about this, but the that comparison, Shigeru Mizuki, who gets name checked in this book on page 109, who was doing like sort of like a story kind of like this. Like, there's on Wikipedia, at least, we're led to believe that he's kind of responding a little bit to that dude, Mizuki. And I read fuck, I'm not going to remember the name of it now, but basically he pulls this kind of trick. It's a very cartoony style, and then every once in a while, like full on naturalism. And sometimes then the cartoony style is laid over the naturalism, and then it goes straight to cartoony again. And I think it's a technique that's kind of being developed at this time. Like, it's part of like that, I don't know, Gaikika thing, but I couldn't say.
Yeah, it's true. No, it looks, there is such a grandeur to it. It's yeah, it's visually stunning. And I guess because it's just sort of like surprising, like, you're not expecting it, and so like, and then you're flipping past, just how it does make a real impression.
Yeah, even if it's subconscious, and the amount of work that goes into it, like the amount of lines in comparison to the other pages, it's just those moments where, like, I can't, and he does it so often. Again, page 622, they've got those, the ridges. You can pick a million of them. Even in the sharks, like that, the first time, whoa, sharks! There he manages to evoke, something creepy, something big. And he does it a lot. Really makes use of it with the demons, and I think like the fact, like, his large images are naturalist, like images of nature, and maybe this is what made me think of Noah Van Sciver. And his images of the demons get the same page space, and so they become the same thing. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I would definitely buy that.
Yeah. Anyway, I love this thing. I'd recommend this to anyone who really, if you like Tezuka, and even if you don't, I don't think I would recommend Tezuka generally, like, to anyone, just anyone, I mean. But if you like Tezuka, definitely, and even if you didn't, I think this is a weird one. This one has to be seen. This one has to be seen.
Yeah, it'll make an impression at the very least, and you'll see some cool action.
Yeah, definitely. And maybe you'll start thinking about, you'll start appreciating your eyes, and maybe, that you don't have swords for arms.
Maybe even your immortal soul.
Ooh.
Probably not, though.
No, probably.
Now, all we need is a little energon and a lot of luck.